Hey everybody, it's X, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'll be playing another traditional draft of Wilds of Eldraine. Without further ado, let's slam dunk our Pack 1 Pick 1 Rare Archon of the Wild Rose. 4 mana for a 4/4 flyer, already good and limited, but it's also going to be turning any of your creatures with auras on them into 4/4s with flying at base power and toughness. So if the aura on them is a roll token that gives +1/+1, which most of the roll tokens do, then it's going to make it a 5/5 flyer. And if you have a roll token on the board before you cast the Archon, you just get an immediate 5 damage flying swing by sending in whatever creature had that roll token on it. I think Archon of the Wild Rose is an excellent rare and a great way to start off. If it weren't in the pack, I think the best common is Cut In, an excellent common removal spell that plays really well with the red archetypes that are basically all aggressive, getting that young hero roll for extra damage. And the best uncommon is Agatha's Champion, a creature plus removal spell all in one, always a great 2-for-1. But we'll start with a very strange looking Archon of the Wild Rose over there in our deck box. For Pack 1 Pick 2, I don't see any great white follow-ups if there's anything powerful in another color, because Gallant Pie Wielder is the best white card, and I think it's just okay. You need to be really consistently triggering Celebration for it to be great, and it's a little bit difficult to do that. If you are the only white drafter, you can get a lot of the commons like Unassuming Sage that make a creature and a roll all in one, and that gives you two permanents off one card, best way to keep triggering the Pie Wielder, but it can be a little difficult. We could take Cruel Somnophage, which even if you're in just black-white, playing this late in the game can make it a pretty big creature. It is definitely a late game play though, and it is off color. We could take Prism or Evolving Wilds for fixing pretty early. Really not the most exciting pack. I think the best 3 cards are just the green removal spell of Curse, the Pie Wielder, and the Somnophage, and I don't think the others are that much better than Pie Wielder, so I suppose we're just sticking to white here. And I guess I'm going to reboot Arena after this draft, just in case, because there are some weird things happening with my text boxes up in the top right. Don't know what's going on there. Pack 1 Pick 3 is going to be a pretty easy candy grapple. Efficient instant speed removal is excellent in any limited format, any draft or sealed format, but it is particularly good in this format, not only because it's a pretty aggressive format, but also because there's some adventures that target creatures. So if your opponent plays an adventure that tries to put an aura on one of their creatures, and you respond by killing the creature they're trying to put an aura onto, you can not only counter the adventure, but put the creature half of that adventure into their grave as well, and you get a massive 2-for-1 doing that. So really like Candy Grapple and the red instant speed removal that I forget the name of. Pack 1 Pick 4. Apprentice's Folly is a really fun build around, but it is in blue-red. We'd have to do some amount of fixing and some build around for it. This card plays well with bargain cards. You want to sacrifice this before Chapter 3 triggers so that you get to permanently keep your reflection tokens that you get off of the first 2 chapters. But if you can do that, it's pretty powerful. It is, though, pretty color restrictive, and we have to draft around it, so I would rather just take something like Voracious Vermin here. Solid card. It is best in like black-red, but it'll still be good in black-white, especially when we're running cards like Gallant Pie Wielder that care about Celebration. The Vermin is going to trigger that by putting itself and a rat token on the board, and when we have cards like Candy Grapple that care about bargaining, because we can bargain away the rat token since it counts as a token. Pack 1 Pick 5. Nothing much here. There's a very filler combat trick with Sugar Rush, pretty filler creature with Ginger Brute, could take Red Cap Thief speculating towards red as another way to trigger Celebration, but there's nothing exciting in this pack. I think I'll just take Ginger Brute since it is colorless. It can fit into anything with a good amount of roll tokens, so you can buff up your Ginger Brute, get some good damage in with it. Very happy to take a Monstrosity Pick 6. This card's been a big overperformer for me. 2 mana 3/1 that replaces itself with a food token when it dies. Just nice to have extra things lying around for bargain and other stuff like that. Even just as a life point swing, that extra 3 life gain can be valuable. So happy to take that, sticking to black-white here. The other options are to push towards green or red for Curse the Werefox and Flick a Coin, which are the best cards in the pack. Pick 7 now. Archon's Glory plays really well with the right bargain cards left behind. A food token, a rat token, anything like that if you're making this a combat trick that's just 1 mana to give something +2/+2, flying and lifelink, you're having a very good time with that card. That can really swing a race in your favor, gaining you a bunch of life, finding a bunch of extra damage they weren't expecting. Big fan of the card. Not a huge fan of Not Dead after all, but it is playable. Solitary Sanctuary is like strictly a blue-white tap build around. Not going to be good for us here. Maybe we speculate off color again, take a Genealogist, I suppose. Well, I guess we haven't speculated off color a single time yet. I think black-white has been open enough, we can just stick to that. And taking cards like Not Dead after all, even if they don't make the main deck, since we're in a traditional draft here, where we're going to be playing best 2 out of 3, it is nice to make sure that you have an excess of cards so that you have options to rebuild your deck, make it more aggressive or more defensive based on what you need in the specific matchup. So even if something isn't a really clear sideboard card, like something that says like destroy target enchantment, if your opponent's running a bunch of enchantments, sometimes it's nice to just have extra cards to swap around for whatever might be the best. Now, I don't see a lot of situations where I'll want to sideboard in a Plunge into Winter, though, so I'm still going to take Curse the Werefox, because I think the disparity in power level here is pretty massive between the on-color card and the off-color card there, so I'm going to speculate on that one, but for the most part, not going to do a lot of speculating here. Really need a lot of ways to buff the Ginger Boots to make them good, but I'm not a huge fan of 4 mana discard spells. It's just a lot. Alright. Pack number 2, what do we got? One of the best white rares in the format, and it synergizes incredibly well with our other rare. Super excited to see that. The Spellbook Vendor. Going to be putting sorcerer rolls all over the board, buffing everybody up. Incredible card by itself, and even better with Archon of the Wild Rose. Easy pick up there. Pack 2, pick 2. Moment of Valor is certainly sideboard material at worst. If you're really low on removal, you can run in the main deck. I'll probably take that for the sideboard. Pretty committed to black-white at this point. Only one card out of this pack. It was a common. It was the black common. White, blue, red, green still in here. Yeah, most likely a black common got taken out of here and there just weren't any good white cards in this pack at all. Rough, but it'll happen even if we're not that contested in our color pair. Like this player could be playing black-green or black-red or black-blue, and we still just get hosed out of that pack. This pack, pretty weak for everybody but red. Cut-in's great. Nothing else in here is really any good. Yeah, I mean, some solid blue stuff like Threadbind Cleek. Guess we speculate towards that, because Slumbering Keep Guard, Warehouse Tabby, Protective Parents, just not the greatest cards. Unless there's something really missing on our mana curve, and it doesn't look like it. We already have 2 1-drops. 2 drops are what we're really looking for, and there's no 2 drops on color, so might as well speculate on Threadbind Cleek if we find some fixing for that. I will happily take a Stockpiling Celebrant. There are a lot of good synergies for this card. I don't know that we have many right now, but 2 of them are at common. There's the Hopeful thing, that's a 2-mana enchantment that makes a 2/2 when it hits the board, and the Hopeless card, that's a 1-mana enchantment that makes somebody discard a card when it hits the board. With Stockpiling Celebrant, you make those cards really powerful because you make them repeatable. You turn the Celebrant into like Scry 2 draw a card, which is really good. So those are the excellent combos. Some other ways to use it, like with sagas and stuff, and just decent enter the battlefield effects in the first place. So I guess here we just have Voracious Vermin or Sweet Tooth Witch, maybe redo one of those, enter the battlefields. But for now, we don't have great ways to use it, and now we do Hopeless Nightmare. This is really, really cheap, and that's what makes it decent card draw. It's only 1 mana as the investment, and there's a lot of great ways to use it because you can bargain it away since it leaves that enchantment token behind. You can also pick it back up with the Stockpiling Celebrant. That's the huge combo there. And that's a lot of just what makes this a discard spell I'm actually happy to play, whereas I'm not happy to play the 4-mana one. So we'll take the Hopeless Nightmare here. And there's the Hopeful Vigil. Perfect. These are just the like #1 cards for the black-white archetype. They help you with bargain, they help give you things to pick up and recast. They help you with celebration as well for this Pie Wielder. Really happy to see Hopeless Nightmare into Hopeful Vigil into a second Hopeful Vigil here. I love me a stockpiling Celebrant. I'd love to play more once I get more of these Hope cards, the Hopefuls and the Hopelesses, but Hopeful Vigil is so premium. It's just like the best 2-drop in this color pair by far, and we want to fill up that 2-mana slot with these over basically anything else. Pick 8 now, Cheeky House Mouse. Could also try to sideboard in to break the spell, but I think Cheeky House Mouse is main deckable. The one part I really don't like about it is the 1 toughness. I try to avoid 1 toughness stuff generally. The only 1 toughness cards I'm still a fan of are cards like Minstrosity that provide you with other things. And House Mouse sort of does. It gives you that little bonus damage off of its adventure, squeaking on by, so could help. I've been pretty unimpressed with Financier and Savior of the Sleeping, so I think I'd rather just take Scream Puff, get a 5-drop just to top off the curve as a finisher. The Financier does get a lot better in traditional draft, where you can just put it into your deck when you know that you're going to be on the play. Or sorry, when you know that you're going to be on the draw, because the Financier really wants your opponent to have more lands than you, and the only time that you know they will is if they're on the play and you're on the draw. So maybe Financier goes enough up in value in best 2 out of 3 that I should have taken it over Scream Puff there, but I think looking at our mana curve, Scream Puff was a super reasonable pick for the top end. And we've got a real solid looking deck here. Looks like more than anything else at this point, we just want some more removal. That's all. Yeah. Take removal over pretty much anything, and we should be in a great spot moving into pack 3 and just moving into the gameplay. We can even put Moment of Valor back in if we need it, which at this point we might. And technically don't need blue mana to use this just to destroy a tapped creature, so even worst case scenario will be okay here. So I'm really liking how this deck is shaping up. That's 21 cards already if you count those. So what do we have? Rest in Peace that only works against graveyards, so we don't want that. Another Pie Wielder is great. Glass Casket is solid, but I think I like Cooped Up as the best removal spell out of this pack, and as I said before, we're taking removal over basically everything. So let's take the Cooped Up over Glass Casket or Feed the Cauldron. It just kills a wider variety of things. The flaw of this card is they can get their creature out of the Cooped Up if they blow up your Cooped Up before you exile their card. But I think it's worth it for that cheap entry fee, that cheap mana cost. So we take the Cooped Up there. Pack 3, pick 2. I don't think I have enough enchantments and rolls for Ashiok's Reaper, but I suppose with multiple Hopeful Vigils and a Hopeless Nightmare, those could end up in the grave where Ashiok's Reaper gets a bit better. I'm not going to be excited about Fell Horseman or Candy Trail or Rhyme for Reindeer or Threadbind Click, so I'm just going to put the Reaper in the sideboard for now. I don't feel like it's making the cut, but it feels more likely than anything else in that pack, and that's just generally not a great pack for us. Here's a Prophetic Prism to help put the Threadbind Click in here if we need to. I'd rather just stick to 2 colors here than dirtle around with a Prophetic Prism. So is there anything that looks great just on color? Got 4 2-mana creatures already, and they're all great. 2 Hopeful Vigil, Spellbook Vendor, Minstrosity. I don't think I need the more medium Wicked Visitor. Probably a Charmed Clothier at the top of the curve. Get another roll into the deck to go with Archon the Wild Rose. Yeah, I'll take that. I'm very, very happy to take Shrouded Shepherd here, although it's in the same pack as a Candy Grapple and a Lord Skitter's Butcher. That's so sad for me. Oh my god. I really wish these cards were spread out amongst 3 packs, because all of these would make incredible additions to our deck, but Shrouded Shepherd is so good against the rat decks, and they're very, very popular. All of the red cards that produce a bunch of rat tokens that can't block all the black cards that do the same, they just try to get a wide board state and really just rip you apart. And Shrouded Shepherd does decent things even if you're not against a rat deck, so I'm going to take the Shepherd there over the removal. As much as I said I probably have to take removal over everything, I think Shepherd's just so incredible in those matchups that I'm going to take it anyway. And we can sideboard it out in the wrong matchup, but even just a 2-mana 2/2 that gives something +2/+2 is a fine card on curve. Another Hopeless Nightmare, pretty easy. I guess Besotted Knight works with the Archon, but Archon's good even if we don't get it really going, whereas Besotted Knight is not very good without the Archon. I think Clothier's a little better than the Knight. If I want cards like that, happily take another Candy Grapple now. Now we get another Minstrosity or a Spellscorn Coven. I think this card's decent without the blue mana. Excellent with the blue mana, but I think it's still okay without it. 5. Yeah, I've only got one 4-drop. Let's get a second 4-drop over our 6th 2-drop here. I don't think I'm going to main deck back for seconds, but in the right matchup that becomes a really grindy War of Attrition, this can be a great value play in the end. I'm not going to take a second Moment of Valor now that I have cooped up and double Candy Grapple for main deck and one Moment in the side. And we get a Glass Casket or a Hopeless Nightmare here. Third Hopeless Nightmare. Got 2 Hopeful Vigil, double Hopeless Nightmare. I think I just take the Glass Casket. But that is some spice too. Keep rare drafting the highest rarity cards when there's nothing on color. I guess Wicked Visitor plays fine now that we have double Nightmare, double Vigil. Could play 6 2-drops in this deck. Probably don't play the Ginger Brutes or the Keep Guard. Cut a lot of these 1-drops. And I'm already considering cutting the first 2 Ginger Brutes, so I'll just rare draft the highest rarity card again. And Stingblade Assassin for the sideboard. Not great. Not something I generally would ever main deck, but if we're playing against some green deck that just has a ton of just massive creatures and we're having really bad time dealing with them, it can finish things off. Okay. This is 44 cards right now. We could put a Moment of Valor back in. I don't think we'll want to. Could main deck an Ashiok's Reaper since we've got a lot of these hopeful and hopeless cards, these enchantments that sit around just waiting to get sacked. Plus roll tokens. As roll tokens die, you're drawing cards. So we'll consider that. But they're probably not making it in. So we have 46 cards here. We've got 18 creatures and 2 Hopeful Vigil, making it like a 20 creature deck. We probably just want around the average 15 to 17 like usual. So we can cut 3 to 5 creatures here very freely. And I don't really think any of these 1-drops look great in this deck. We don't have a lot of roll production to buff these things up. We've got the 1 Spellbook Vendor that does a ton of it, but that's most of our roll production. And we're probably cutting the Protective Parents and some other stuff. So I think our Archon's really just going to be 4-mana 4/4 flyer most of the time. That's still good. But yeah, that definitely makes just 1-mana 1/1s like Slumbering Keep Guard and Gingerbread a lot weaker. That's the best thing you can do with these cards, is put like a Young Hero roll onto them. And we can't really do that. So let's cut the Gingerbrutes and the Keep Guard. Still considering cutting the Cheeky House Mouse. I'll put it in our maybe pile here. And then I think everything else on the curve is fine, but Protective Parents is the worst other creature we have in this deck. As much as I love Young Hero rolls, I've said it before about this card quite a bit, not being able to choose exactly when you get that roll and not getting it until quite a bit later into the game do make this card quite a bit weaker. Plus, a 3/2 body is just not very good. It trades down pretty easily without giving you any immediate impact. It takes a while before you get that Young Hero roll. You have to wait for it to die. Whereas like with 3/2s like Celebrant, you get a ton of impact immediately, or Sweet Tooth Witch, like you just immediately get your card out of it, which I do like. So I think if I'm cutting any other creature, it's probably Protective Parents. I still don't like Ashiok's Reaper in this deck. But in terms of like playing a good creature versus non-creature count, I like Protective Parents less than it. And I think our last 2 cuts should probably be non-creatures here, because this is a 16 creature deck now if we count the double Hopeful Vigil. I think we want a good count. We want to get a nice aggressive curve and try to beat down with the big flyers late game to finish things off. So I don't think I'm cutting more creatures, so we've got some weaker, more filler creatures in here like Ashiok's Reaper, which every now and then it will pop off with Hopeless Nightmares and Hopeful Vigils and draw us a bunch of cards, but most of the time this is going to be like a 4-mana 3/3, and that is real bad, so not excited about having to play that. I think that's the weakest creature left in the deck, but I do think it's probably better in here than the Protective Parents were going to be. Yeah, I mean, our worst creature outside of Ashiok's Reaper now is just Wicked Visitor or House Mouse. And these are both just fine stats for their mana cost, even without any abilities. Whereas Reaper, if it didn't have abilities, 4-mana 3/3, that's a really bad stat line, so... I mean, I'll double-check creatures here and see if there's anything else I could put in over Reaper, but I think it's better than playing any more 1-drop creatures in this deck. Maybe Keep Guard is actually just better than Reaper here because it gives us immediate impact playing our Hopeless Nightmares and Hopeful Vigils. It gives us the Scry. It's not a lot of impact, but it's some amount. Yeah, it's definitely better than Stingblade Assassin or Ginger Brutes, I think. Yeah. Maybe Keep Guard over Reaper would be fine, but we'll try it out. I haven't actually played with the Reaper yet, I think. And we do have 4 enchantments in this deck that can sacrifice themselves, and like 3 bargain cards between 2 Candy Grapples and an Archon's Glory, and we're definitely not cutting any of those cards. So this would be like the place to play Ashiok's Reaper, so if we played it and it ends up being really bad in here, probably just never playing it again, generally. Anyways, what are we cutting now? Some of our more narrow removal between Moment of Valor or Glass Casket, and Not Dead After All. So 2 of these 3 cards for the non-lands that we're cutting, I think. Take a peek through the deck, see how good Not Dead After All is going to be. I do like that it's giving us a Wicked roll that's going to make the Archon of the Wild Rose a little bit better, but how many Enter the Battlefield effects do we have that are really going to get us a huge benefit from resurrecting something that was about to die? I don't think there's a lot, honestly. Shepherd doesn't count because our creatures, the vast majority of the time, are going to die during combat, and buffing a creature after combat damage has happened is not really getting any value from its Enter the Battlefield effect. So I'm not going to count Shepherd, but we'll give Minstrosity a very tiny bit of counting because we get the food and then get it back to get another food later, maybe. And Wicked Visitor gets a tiny bit of counting as synergy because this likes us just having rolls on the board, and that'll give us a Wicked roll. So I'll count these as like 1 point of synergy total between the 2. Vermin's Good gives us the Enter Battlefield effect. Sweet Tooth Witch gives us the ETB. Stockpiling Subrant gives us the ETB. Pie Wielder becomes a 3/4 first striker, double striker, which is a pretty significant buff. Archon's a big deal, so it's just good to bring that back. Spellbook Vendor's a good deal, so it's a big deal, so it's good to bring it back. There actually might be enough synergy to try out the Not Dead After All main deck for now, and then just bring in Glass Casket or Moment of Valor depending on the matchup. Still have the 3 really flexible removal spells, the Cooped Up and the Double Candy Grapple, that are going to be great in any matchup. Because everyone's going to have creatures at 5 or less toughness. Everybody's going to have creatures, period, for Cooped Up. But there will be some matchups where there's no great targets for Glass Casket, some matchups where there's no great targets for Moment of Valor. I think Moment of Valor is definitely the more narrow one. There are enough aggro decks in this format. There's going to be some decks where your opponent has maybe 2 or 3 cards that this kills, and then it's a pretty bad card. You can still use it as a combat trick. That is the upside. That is how they make it not completely unplayable in the wrong matchup. But I think it's not worth main decking if your opponent doesn't have quite a few power 4 greater creatures. So Glass Casket, though, that's the real question there. I guess we could check our mana curve as well. Average 2.5. Do we run a 16 land here? That's another possibility. We could just play 16 lands and put the Glass Casket back in. I'm actually a little interested in that. Let's go 16 lands with a Glass Casket, and the reason being is that we do have some extra scry going on randomly in this deck between Stockpiling Celebrant and then the 4 copies of Hopeful Vigil and Hopeless Nightmare, but that's also a good reason to keep more lands in the deck. Hold up. If we can scry early game a lot, that's a decent reason to run a low land count, because that means we can scry into the extra lands if we need them. If we can scry in the late game a lot, then that's a good reason to keep a high land count, because then we can scry out of any mana flood. And come to think of it, I think we're actually just a lot better at scrying late game than early game. Yeah, if I get a Hopeless Nightmare or a Hopeful Vigil on the board and a bargain card, then I can sack one of them for only 1 or 2 mana and get the scry going. But most of the time, because I only have the 3 bargain cards, we're not going to be scrying until we have 3 extra mana to spend exclusively on scrying and not impacting the board in any way. And while technically you would think, like, yeah, that means we can start scrying on turn 3, it's like, no, because on turn 3 we need to impact the board and make sure we're not getting rolled over. We need to keep playing creatures. So realistically, most of the time we're not actually scrying till like turn 5, 6 plus. So I think we are actually happier to be 17 lands than 16 lands, using our scry to scry out of Mana Flood rather than scry out of Mana Screw. So we'll go full 17 still. Which does mean I do need to cut the Glass Casket or the Not Dead after all, or drop down to 15 creatures and just not play the Ashiok's Reaper, but we're going to give it a shot today. So let's drop the Glass Casket again for now. Well, no, this format has been playing out aggressive enough. I'm going to keep Glass Casket in. That's like always had targets every time I've seen it so far. Let's actually drop the Not Dead after all here. Depending on the matchup, it'll play better or worse. So if our opponent doesn't have any like exile removal and they're trading off very frequently, Not Dead after all can come in out of the sideboard, and we can play around with it there. I think this is a pretty reasonable spot to be. I like 9 plains over 8 swamps, just looking at the curve naturally, because adding the Hopeful Vigils up here, it looks like in terms of how often we need white mana versus black mana early on the curve, we need white mana a bit more often. We've got 4 white 2-drops and a white 1-drop. Plus, we have a double white card but no double black cards. But we also do have a good amount of black cards. We have some 1 mana black cards we might want to play. So we don't want to go way more on white sources than black sources. So I think Arena's just natural auto-suggested 9-8 split looks pretty great for this deck. And we'll call it a deck there. Alright, here we have a look at our completed deck list for today. We're on a black-white aggro deck here. Nice curve with a ton of 2-drops, and we've got some great bombs. The main one being the Spellbook Vendor here. This just by itself is going to keep buffing the rest of our board, which is excellent. Our other bomb is the Archon of the Wild Rose, which doesn't really work unless we have other auras going on the board. We don't have a ton of roll token production, so this is only really going to be great if we got the Spellbook Vendor into the Archon of the Wild of the Rose. Dream Curve, then it will be insane, but even as a 4-mana 4/4 flyer, that can certainly end some games for us. So those are the bombs in the middle of the curve that could just absolutely win games, but other than that, it is a consistent curve of creatures to just keep beating down, hopefully trading profitably, clearing the path with a couple removal spells, and doing the general limited game plan there. Got some other synergies going on with 2 copies of Hopeful Vigil and 2 copies of Hopeless Nightmare. We're very, very good at bargaining away some random enchantments, and with that, we get to buff our Candy Grapples to be incredibly efficient removal spells, and our Archon's Glory to be a fantastic combat trick. We also have 1 stockpiling Celebrant. That is going to be great with the 2 Hopeless Nightmare, the 2 Hopeful Vigil. Being able to pick one of those up and replay it is going to be a lot of value there. Other than that, a couple more removal spells with Cooped Up and Glass Casket, but that's about it. Very consistent, very standard black-white aggro deck here, and hopefully everything falls pretty well for us today. But without further ado, let's head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are for round 1 on the play. Keepable hand, obviously looking to draw some non-land cards, but I think the curve is solid, having the Hopeless Nightmare left behind to bargain away to Candy Grapple or to Scry on turn 3. If we just hit a couple lands, that could help make sure that we stop flooding out. Playing against the blue deck here, they discard a Bitter Chill first, and it's going to be blue-black fairies, as we know they're in blue-black and they're casting a fairy turn 1, so it's a pretty safe assumption. Our first draw is, unfortunately, a 5th land for us. They're going to poke us for 1 in the sky with the Fairy Dream Thief. And drop a Barrow Naughty, which is an annoyingly good blocker for the Fairies deck. So, probably grapple away the Barrow-Naughty, and since I'm already considering sacking the Hopeless Nightmare to scry into non-lands, we might as well bargain away the Hopeless Nightmare to get the scry for free. The only way this plays poorly is if I draw into Stockpiling Celebrant, but we draw into Cooped Up instead, which is solid. And then poke them for 2 with Wicked Visitor. So hoping they play a great creature here so that we have something good to do with our mana turn 4. Sir Ginger. A 3-1 that's only going to get bigger the longer the game goes on? Sure. Kill that, chip in for 2. They do get to keep scrying as their artifacts die, but they won't get the +1/+1 counters anymore. They could also sack Sir Ginger to gain the 3, but Sir Ginger's still just dead if they do that. Poke us with the Dream Thief, down to 17. Alright, just past the turn here, they're quite likely to eat Sir Ginger then. Let's see. They could have the counter unless I pay 2 +1 for each fairy they control, because that's a blue and 1. That would counter either of my spells. And I'd be bummed out if either gets countered, so I think we just go for mana efficiency and play the most expensive card here. They don't have that counter spell. Could have removal, but instant speed, or they could just be wanting to eat Sir Ginger before we exile her. Yep, that's fine. So our Cooped Up just fully kills Sir Ginger. Which is a-okay with me. Now I don't have to dump extra mana into that later. There's a rat out on the Clothier, probably another removal spell here. Stacking up 2 things into killing it. No, they stopgap, I see. Well, we're very happy with them being stuck on mana there. They did draw the 4th land off of that, but because they were stuck on mana, they had to spend their rat out and the stopgap just to slow down the Clothier. And Clothier now only puts 3 more power on board, whereas Vermin plus Vigil puts 3 for 5 power on board, so it's better to play the double spell this turn at this point. Since we already have a roll on the only creature on board, Clothier's not actually getting the Visitor any bigger. So this puts more power on the board, and then we can Clothier next turn. Put a stop on our upkeep, just in case something real weird happens that makes us want to scry before we draw, but that's highly unlikely. Hilda's Crown of Winter, very good for our opponent, but I don't want to scry before I draw for that. Could play Clothier or Reaper here. Gonna be best to just drop the Clothier, get as much power on board as possible, because that's 4 power, plus potentially buffing the Vermin to be big enough to not get blocked by Dream Thief, so it's going to get tapped to the Crown of Winter, but that's fine. In order to tap it in the future, they're going to have to pay the ward. Send in the team, offering the trade of Rat for Dream Thief. They do take that trade, go down to 4, which means Vermin gets bigger, and they don't have a blocker anymore. Position is looking excellent for us. Our opponent has just stumbled on their mana a little too much here. Hopefully enough for us to just beat them down with everything we resolved. And that is going to be the case. Unfortunate mana issues for our opponent lead us into a solidly quick victory for game number 1. So we're against blue-black fairies. The only creature we got to see, well, the only creatures we got to see were their small creatures, a 1/3, a 3/1, and a 1/1. So I'm happy with Glass Casket here. They did have bounce removal as well as tap a thing down removal since they're in blue-black. They also have access to exile removal potentially, so I don't know if I'm that excited about Not Dead after all in this matchup. I think our main deck is just pretty reasonable. We didn't see anything to kill with Moment of Valor either. Anything in the main deck that looks terrible here? Cheeky House Mouse might be bad. the 1 Monstrosity, because against the Rat Out, it's going to play poorly, plus against their 1/1 and their 1/3, the Cheeky House Mouse will play pretty poorly. So I could swap out the House Mouse, but I don't really have a great creature to swap it out for. I just swap it for Protective Parents or something. It's kind of awkward. I mean, I think I'm happy to run it back, but we could do something where we swap like House Mouse for Parents or something here. But I'm chill with our main deck. We see even more copies of Rat Out. We might do that going into game 3. Keeping a 2-lander on the draw here. No plays till turn 3. We did immediately draw the 3rd land, which is great. And we drew a 2-drop to play, so now we're curving out. Wicked Visitor into Pie Wielder, because turn 4 we can trigger Celebration. Start throwing pies in everybody's face. Talion's Messenger, annoyingly big blocker that's only going to get bigger. Should I just coop it up immediately? Does it trigger when any fairies they control? Whenever you attack with 1 or more fairies. So even if they're attacking with different fairies they control, it's triggering. That's pretty annoying. So even if I coop it up, I'm going to have to exile it to fully get rid of their value. Pie Wielder versus cooped up here. Do we just stop them from drawing and discarding and setting up draws for now? Hope they don't play another fairy next turn. Yeah, we're on the draw here. Let's play a more conservative line here and try to just hinder our opponent more than set up our own damage. If they have a 4th land, they could stopgap the Messenger back to their hand, draw a card. That'd be pretty good value. Alright, no fairy. Love to see that. They could have a flash fairy here, which I don't have a great response for. As far as I remember, though, most of the flash fairies are like the 4-mana 3/1 flyer at common. There's the 2-mana 2/2 flash flyer at uncommon. Any of those would be fine to attack in here. So let's attack in. But because they could have a flash fairy, I think I just hold up that cooped up mana to get rid of the Messenger, so that they don't get to draw any cards, put any counters. Yeah. Exile the Messenger. Otherwise, they attack with a Stingblade Assassin, draw a card, discard a card, make it a 4/2, and just keep buffing from there on. Into the Fey Court. Excellent card. Huge value for our opponent. Get the big 3-for-1 on us. Just make the most of our mana now and try to beat down as much as possible. Wish I had a 2-drop creature here. I would be happier to play a 3-drop and a 2-drop than the 5-drop, because we know that they have 4-mana bounce spells. And if they bounce the Scream Puff, that's really taxing on our mana. Dream Spoilers. With any instance, that's going to stack into a bunch of extra -1/-1. That would be pretty annoying. 6 mana, we drop Vermin Pie Wielder and play Witch next turn. Want to play Vermin post-combat, because if they play any instance here, they just kill Vermin for free, which is gross. Because Dream Spoilers is just really gross against us in general right now, because it can kill the Visitor if I attack with it. The Wizarder. Or the Vermin if I cast it. They have like a Rat Out, they kill Visitor without even blocking here. I guess I put the Fear of God in them and make it so they know we have 6 mana up to respond to whatever instance they do here. So they probably shouldn't try to do anything crazy. Alright, yeah, that's a really free instant. That's unfortunate. Yeah, that's a really safe instant to do. But Let's go. Holding that full control did put the fear in them. Plus we have the 6 mana up to where they don't get the free kill on Wicked Visitors. So I'm really happy to see that. At least they didn't kill the Visitor here. And I might actually go Witch Pie Wielder here, because I can still trigger Celebration next turn off Vermin. And this way they can't kill one of our attackers next turn with just one instant. Like they could with Voracious Vermin. Or the rat that it makes. So cast Obira's Attendants. This is a really good fairies deck over here. 7 life. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 power on their board. Shoot. Snap. Crackle Pop. Oh, they're at 12. In order to not die, I feel like I might have to play a Coven and eat a food, but that would make it so I don't trigger Celebration this turn. Can I even kill them if I don't trigger Celebration? Block Scream Puff with Attendants. I guess I can make it a position where they have to block Scream Puff with Attendants to not die. In which case, I don't have to play Coven and eat a food to live. But then I would be dead to removal if I only play Coven. Right, because they go block Scream Puff, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9... 10, 11. Snap, they actually go to 1. But if they don't block Scream Puff, then they die. I don't love this, but I think I have to go for it. If they don't have a great instant, they have to block Scream Puff, and even if they do, they have to heavily consider blocking Scream Puff. Which they do have, they have an instant here. That's all but guaranteed. If it's another Obira's Attendants, that's brutal. Make the Scream Puff do 0, and then just minimize the Pie Wielder to stop a bunch of damage there too. Dream Spoilers, MVP of the game. I guess not really, it just stopped 1 damage last turn. Maybe just Obira's Attendants MVP of the game. Okay, so they're gonna block like this, and then they're gonna nullify our double strike and our 4 power there. The rough part about this is them blocking like this makes it so I have to... If I don't crack the food, then they don't die. But if I do crack the food, then they just give one of these things -1, -1, and survive. Yeah, it's exact lethal on board. 0 chance they make this block without having another instant, but if they have another instant, I'm dead no matter what anyway, right? So I have to go for it. Because if they don't die on this attack and I cast Spellscorn Coven, I chump block Obira's Attendants and take 6? I guess I don't die if I don't throw the food at them. And they don't have removal. Or I don't die if I just eat the food. Go to 10, and then they attack for 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I have to let this through, because if I try to sack the food, then they respond by mitigating damage, and things go terribly. And I get another food from Scream Puff here, which is incredible. I forgot about that. That makes this so much better to just let the damage in. Right? Because now I just gained 6. Now it's really hard to kill me. It is possible they were doing the same thing as me there and just full controlling it up. Ugh, candy trail. So much life gain. Gonna make it way harder to find lethal on the crackback now. Put them from 2 to 5, that more than doubles their life total. So unfair. Draw the card, gain the life. Drop a Crystal Grotto and Scry. To the top. At least they can't attack us much still. I guess they can. I don't think they should, unless they have some other way to find lethal. Okay. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm still alive. Miscounted? Oh my god! Scream Puff MVP producing another food token. Holy lord. Okay. Oh, and that was game 2. That's just it. That's the match. That is round 1 in the bag. Starting things off 1-0, heading into game 2. Rough game for them game 1. Game 2, though, that was real close. They had some great fairy stuff going on there, but just a pivotal little miscount in the end, and we find a nice counterattack for the victory. So 1-0 heading into round 2. Here we are for round number 2. Mono black hand goes bye-bye. Mono white hand. Oh, we've got House Mouse cooped up on any draw. I think we're on that mold of 5 life, though. Keep anything at this point. And this is actually pretty good for a 5-card hand. I'll be honest here. But we are starting at a very, very large card advantage disparity here. Starting very far behind. So I would not put our odds of victory super high here. But we'll see. Still going to try our best. We do draw into probably the best card in our deck, our Spellbook Vendor, so that will certainly help. But we're playing against green-blue. They're going to have plenty of time to ramp into their big dorks. Because we just don't have enough cards to apply a mountain of pressure here. Just Curse of the Werefox, the 2/2. That'd be really rough. We've got the Vendor coming up to buff it up next turn. And it looks like they're doing something to kill our 2/2. Nope, just ramp up for the turn. Guarantee a Hamlet Glutton next turn if they've got one. Would not be good for me. Shrouded Shepherd. Still think it's better to just play Vendor and put the counter on the Knight. But this would make it so if I attack with Knight and they block with Fawn, then I Shepherd post-combat and wipe the board. Which is cool. But they'll still have 5 mana next turn. I guess they can't Hamlet Glutton without the token anyway. But I feel like they're already just not going to block the 2/2, because then they're like, well, I'm not going to play into a +2/+2 combat trick. I don't know. Maybe we'll get really lucky. And they'll just block the 2/2. They don't. So it would have been better to just Vendor. Which is not great. But now I have Archon's Glory against them playing a fight spell during their next turn. This might not be the worst line ever. Don't know if it was worth a shot there. But obviously if they did block with Root Rider Fawn, that would have been an incredible turn with me using the Shrouded Shepherd to just wipe their team off the board. I guess I could have still used Shrouded Shepherd so they didn't have something to sack for a Hamlet Glutton, but if they just cast 1 Hamlet Glutton, I have it cooped up, so. And they'll be tapped out. We just coop up the Glutton and send in the team. Sir Armont, though, that's pretty bad, but killing the 1/1 wouldn't do anything about Armont. But Now -1/-1 doesn't kill the 1/1. Pick up a glass casket. Glass casket is excellent on tokens if I want to just clear out the 3/3. And cooping up Armont. Not the greatest. I guess let's put a roll onto the knight. Attack in, and if they block with Armont, we can Archon's Glory. If they trade, they trade. If they don't do either, we casket. Maybe. Scry into a cheeky house mouse. Be stuck on mana a lot this game if I just keep a bunch of non-lands on top, but that might be the best way to make sure I keep having playables. Yeah. Keep the house mouse. And go for the double block here. Go for the single block. Then we kill the Armont. Crack the Hopeful Vigil. Yep. And a Pie Wielder. Cool. We're gonna have to make real efficient use of our mana throughout this game. And would be beautiful if we were on a 7-card hand, and the other 2 cards were just like land, land. Then I think we'd actually just be in a great position right now. Living Lectern. Alright. 0/4 Dork. Put a sorcerer roll on something, draw a card. That's what they're gonna do. Buff up the Fawn, draw a card. They're on like Bant auras, green, white, and blue roll tokens everywhere as their deck. I'll just casket the Fawn and then put an aura on the spellbook vendor. Blue and white, they could have a lot of combat tricks that would just kill a creature for free. The +2/+2 or the turn it into a 4/4 trick. I guess I just sent in the knight then. Keep the vendor nice and comfortable. Give it a cushy government job where it just gets to sit at its desk. Exile both my creatures, and when I cast them, you draw a card, and one of them was a token, so I can't recast it. Gross. And if I cast anything off an adventure, they draw a card. Triggers only once each turn, though, so if I cast 2 creatures that went on an adventure in the same turn, they'll only draw 1 card. Interesting. I mean, I'm just going to play the vendor and a mouse, though. No adventure for the cheeky house mouse. Extraordinary Journey does actually seem really good in this matchup for our opponent because of its ability to kill tokens. Normally it's just a tempo play of like bouncing everything your opponent hands. It's like fine. But being able to do that while also killing like a token or 2, it's going to be rough on our double Hopeful Vigil deck. Also got rat tokens and stuff. Curse my spellbook vendor. That's very okay with me. Unless they have a way to clear out 1/1s specifically. Oh. Alright. Oh, they just wanted to put on an adventure so they could draw a card off Extraordinary Journey. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of card draw if they have a lot of adventures. We're already far behind in card advantage for the mulligans. Gross. Get ready to wield some pies. Man, this is really going to be an exhausting game. Because we're starting at card disadvantage from mulliganing twice, and our opponent has an Extraordinary Journey adventure card draw engine going. So it's going to be us just playing 10-second turns because we have no options, and then waiting a minute every turn because our opponent has like 7 cards in hand at all times. And the whole time just grinding it out for our like 10% chance of victory at this point because they're so far ahead in cards. Not going to be a super fun game of Magic here. Alright, just a Root Rider Fawn. No excellent attacks here. Just give up on them making more 1/1s. I can still use this post-combat for some damage later, maybe, but I do like just going for a real big Pie Wielder attack, but they probably have an instant at this point to stop that. If they don't, we force a chump this turn, which is cool. And scry one as well. Well, worst case scenario here, we get to... I don't think that's enough with the amount of cards they have. I'm going to ditch the Hopeless Nightmare. Worst case scenario here, we get to play this game out just to expend a lot of our opponent's clock. They're already almost 10 minutes down. So if we do go to a full 3-game round, they might time out in game 3 at this rate. Yep, more card draw by playing another adventure. That is just a massive amount of card draw. Draws you extra cards when you're casting creatures that have gone on adventures, which means it's drawing you extra cards when you've already played a 2-for-1. Turns all your 2-for-1s into 3-for-1s now. Still a really slow card, which means I think it's probably pretty bad in Premier Draft for sure in this format with how aggressive it is. I think that's the part that keeps it from being like super busted, is that it's slow enough that the aggro decks can try to just kill you while you're trying to set up all the card draw. Genealogist, sure. Okay, no way to get 2 permanents on the board here. I can Candy Grapple the Werefox or the Transmuter if I want, but I will not have any good attacks in after that anyway. Probably send in the Pie Wielder, and then I might not even have to sack something to grapple. I do think I have to hold up the mana for Ward, though, which makes it awkward. Yeah. I'll keep the 4th land. We have a 5-drop in our hand now, and we're getting taxed by spellbook vendors, so it's been hard to find a great mana position here. Double block could go really well for them here. Yeah, maybe this wasn't the line. But we've got enough mana up to go like +2/+2 and Candy Grapple if we had it, so there are a lot of plays available to our color pair that would destroy them on a double block. They're not going to play around them though, unfortunately. So we will kill Genealogist and Transmuter here. Put the Genealogist up front. The other part doesn't matter. We go full control, deal combat damage, then Candy Grapple, so that I can sack the roll that's on the Pie Wielder. Let's kill the Werefox, because Ward is annoying. Alright. Again, I don't think it really matters what we're doing here. I don't think we're ever breaking through these 6 additional cards they have. But get them to expend some time thinking on some stuff. Slow them down from killing us, all that kind of stuff. And hope for better draws in future games, when we will be very far ahead on time. Now that's gross. Get a 3/3 and they can sack a creature to grab any card from their deck, and then they get +2/+2 trample on the board. That's pretty big value. No way to get good attacks in here. I can drop a Minstrosity and a Cooped Up, but if I drop a Cooped Up, they sacrifice whatever I put Cooped Up onto, so I would rather put a Sorcerer Roll onto the board for now. Put it on the 3-power creature so we have something big enough to block Gale Fang. Into the Fey Court, draw 3. We are getting farther and farther behind in card advantage. 100% at this point, just playing out to reduce their clock. There's Screen Puff mana. We also get to see more of their deck to see what we want to really sideboard around if we want. Kind of just seems like green, blue, white pile. Lots of adventure 2-for-1s and roll 2-for-1s mostly. So we just want to play aggro, curve out underneath them for the most part, best as we can. Could throw in our destroy a creature with power 4 or greater. That would kill Sir Armont or Ferocious Werefox or Gale Fang, or anything that they might be putting rolls onto to buff up. Looks reasonable in the matchup. Still think Glass Casket looks good. Gets rid of the Root Rider Fawns. Potential tokens like beasts, fairies. Candy Grapple looks great. Archon's Glory looks fine. Yeah, probably cutting something for Moment of Glory. I don't know. Maybe one of our Hopeless Nightmares. I guess we do have one out this game. If they don't have counterspells, then if we top deck our card that makes all our creatures with rolls 4/4 flyers, that could literally just kill them out of nowhere. Yeah. If I draw that, these are all 4/4 flyers, I think. Well, no, I don't know which would override it. I think with layers it's supposed to be the newest card overwrites the base power and toughness, but who knows. We are like one top deck now. But yeah, Asinine Tactics, that is their attempt to end the game quick. 10 damage here, 16. I think I just take it and we just see if we top deck the Archon, and if so, we might win. If it turns it all into 4/4s, which it might, I'm not certain. But there's still 1/1s we don't. Okay, we don't draw it anyway. They don't have trample next turn, and visitor makes our opponent lose a bunch of life. So there's that. Coop up the... what do I want to coop up here? The trampler, likely. Give us more blocks, more time in general. Okay, Minstrosity already has a roll, so we put it on literally anybody else. Let's get a 3/3 trade into their 3/3. They've got Stormkeld Vanguard in there too, that's pretty gross. Save Transmuter from the cooped up and draw a card. When they cast it later with Extraordinary Journey. We get got by combat tricks, but they've got like a full 7-card hand, so it is what it is. Still alive for a turn to chip away at their clock. Another Living Lectern. Find an Ashiok's Reaper. Okay, Disdainful Stroke to worry about. Not that worrisome, we only have like 2 or 3 cards at that mana value. Alright, and we're already done on board. They're casting some more spells, spending some more time, which is beautiful. Stop the most damage we can, and there we go. So, kind of a predetermined loss from just initial mulligans, I would say, mostly. So I think I'm happy with the end outcome of getting half their clock down in one game. So that if we do go to 3 games in this match, then we will probably just win on time. But yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle here. Some rough mulligans forcing us to just get a 2-0 to win this match, basically. So we do have Moment of Valor against their 4-power creatures that I think is decent. That's about it. Back for seconds if it becomes a big grindy war of attrition, if we actually draw a bunch of lands throughout the game and all that. They were down to 4 cards in deck, too, so I guess there was that to consider. Maybe they would have milled out eventually, but... or anything that looked terrible in the main deck? With the way that played out, Hopeless Nightmare didn't look like it was going to get us anywhere in terms of bridging that gap. But Hopeless Nightmare is a nice little aggro card, too, chipping in for initial damage, giving them less options in their opening hand, so it's still... fine. I think Ashiok's Reaper's probably slow enough. Might even just go like full aggro here and try to really get in underneath them. Keep the Hopeless Nightmares. Drop like an Ashiok's Reaper. Don't put in the back for seconds. And maybe drop one of 5 drops to lower the curve. Or sorry, drop a land and lower the curve here. Just to get in and beat down. We don't have any great creatures to throw in over a land anyway. They're not dead after all, I guess. Or a keep guard. Let's go keep guard. Get a lot of scry off that. Play that over Womp. No, we'll go 50-50 there. Full aggro on the play here. For round 2, game 2. There we go. An immediately keepable hand. Very happy to see that. We are looking to draw 2 lands, which does make the cutting of 1 land a little awkward. Cut a land for a keep guard. So if we draw the keep guard and not a land, then we can be mad about it. But if I don't draw the keep guard, then I wouldn't have drawn the land anyway. Playing Visitor first. If I hit the 3rd mana, I go Vendor and buff the Visitor. Just making sure that our first creature that we put in harm's way is not the Vendor. Now we get the Scry going, find an Archon's Glory, which I do enjoy, but I'm looking for land here. Doesn't fit in well either, because I don't have double white, so I can't play Casket plus Glory. Yeah. With a single white source, I don't think Glory's looking that great. Until we find another land anyway. If I had 4 mana, it'd look pretty good. Play a Vermin or a Witch and also hold up a Glory. But the way things are shaping up, mana and hand-wise, we'd rather dig for the land. Hollow Scavenger. Alright, that's super chill. Don't find the plains yet, but we get some scrying going here. We casket away the Scavenger, buff the Vendor, attack both. So that I get a scry 2. Feels worth it to me. But I could also casket away the Fawn to keep them off mana. But I want to get that scry. I want to find a plains badly, because if we get a plains down and they don't kill anything yet, they're just going to die, like, instantly. So scry out of the swamp, keep the plains. Perfect. Plains means we hit them for 10 next turn, which isn't lethal, but there's almost no coming back from that. The weird thing here, I don't think we should do this, just in case, but hypothetically, if we were getting really, really competitive, there might be a slight argument to slow rolling a bit. And even though we could kill them immediately, just trying to keep them at like 2 life as long as possible to work their clock down more so that if they do get a winning position in a big grindy game, maybe they lose to time. If this were like an arena opener or something huge, I might do that, but that just feels like kind of a dick move. I'm just gonna go for the kill as quickly as we can get it. And no longer looking like they're gonna lose to time game 3, because this game is gonna end in just a turn or 2 at this rate. If they can kill the Archon, this game is still going. If they can kill the Archon for cheap enough, that is. Because I'll still have 2 3/3s. They'd have to chump both of them if they have to spend 5 to kill Archon here. They go kill Archon, chump chump. Brave the Wilds. Find a second island. Play that. Oh, is it the Extraordinary Journey again? That would actually be very good here. Although Wicked Visitor would just kill them, because one of our enchantments would die if they exile 2 of our cards. Oh no. No, Wicked Visitor's just going to kill them if they don't choose Visitor Archon, I think. If they choose Visitor Archon, they might not die. I don't actually know how that works. I don't know if Wicked Visitor would see the enchantment leaving the battlefield or not. Okay, well, they're definitely dead if they do that. Sick. Alright. They've got 11 minutes left, so there is still a slight chance if they get into the lead in a really, really grindy game that they time out. But overall, I think we like being on the aggro here. They're going to be on the play, but still, we keep the lower curve full aggro, one less land build that we've got. Do I even play Ginger Brutes over Scream Puff Clothier? I don't think I do. Maybe 3 balls of porridge to tap a creature down? No. We will roll with this for one last game in round number 2. Really, really nice hand here. Let's get going. Turn 1 Cheeky House Mouse. Might even just turn 1 Dome them for 4. Or turn 2, sorry. Yeah. Can't attack into the Fawn without that. I guess I could just Casket the Fawn and attack in. Which also soaks up some of their mana, and pretty much the only like 3 mana value less creatures we've seen are 2 or 3 copies of Root Rider Fawn, and then like a 3 mana 3/2. So about as good as Glass Casket's gonna get. Oh my god! Does Glass Casket on the Fawn just win us the game? No land drop? Maybe, maybe. Could Celebrant just have max power on this board? But there's so many combos with Celebrant that I think it's better to Shepherd. Even if it might stack into being a little less damage over time. Another Root Rider Fawn is the play. There's a Hopeless Nightmare to work with the stockpiling Celebrant. Now we just start ripping their hand apart, playing a Coven and then playing Hopeless Nightmare Celebrant and stuff like that. I mean, Hopeless Nightmare Celebrant might be just better than playing Coven right now because a 3-power creature can already attack into Fawn perfectly fine. But if I save Celebrant, I might be able to pick up Shepherd and use it post-combat to kill a Root Rider Fawn or something, so just play the Coven. Guaranteed to start chipping in for 2 a turn for a while. Plus, if we play a bunch of discard spells, it is going to make them use a lot of their clock, it looks like. They do put you in really tough decisions, even if it is just a discard 1. Discard a 3-drop? Would not have expected that. Discard Genealogist here? Maybe the hand is all 3-drops. That would not be good for me. Ooh, Return from the Wilds. I see. I see. Get a 1/1 human. That means we've got pretty active attacks on the ground here, don't we? Maybe not the House Mouse, but trading House Mouse into the human isn't terrible just to get things out of the way. Could pick up the Shepherd and use the Adventure. I guess that's probably better than just trading House Mouse off. But it might be better to double Nightmare than it is to use the Adventure on the human. I'm actually going to go double Nightmare, because it also gets a lot of extra damage. So send in the team, let the House Mouse trade to get that human out of the way. Maybe I don't even trade and hit for 4. Actually, that's probably fine too. Just hit for 4. And then hit for another 4 off of double Nightmare. And give them some rough discard decisions to choose from. Okay. Whew, that's not a good auto tap. Thank you for trying, at least, Arena. Scry into another one? I mean, it's another 2 damage and another damage off Wicked Visitor, so sure. Alright, we've got them down to 6 with a 2-power flyer on the board. Tons of stuff on the ground. Anglespan Lookout, they've got 3 blockers on the ground for our 3 attackers on the ground, so 2/3 on the 3/2. 1/3 on the 2/2, 1/1 on the 2/1. That doesn't accomplish much sending it on the ground. So we just send in the Coven and Hopeless Nightmare. Drop a Wicked Visitor, and then start sacking these to kill them, because they'll be at 2, and if 2 enchantments go to the grave, they'll be dead. So we actually scry in our upkeep, so we can guarantee we top deck another land, and then I draw the land and scry again in my main phase to kill them. Asinine Antics, not gonna do it. And we also just have lethal on board now. They can draw 1,000,000, but that's fine. That's actually a really cool combo. Tanglespan, look out, Asinine Antics. I could speak English. Alright. Really, really cool synergies there with our opponent's deck, but they got a little stuck on mana in that final game. And we got to exile one of the mana dorks, so that was huge stuff for us to get the big turnaround, start off down a game, but get the 2-0 victory in the end of that round. We are now 2-0 in this event as a whole, guaranteed to have a positive win rate, winning at least 2 of our 3 rounds, and we're heading into a final boss with huge prizes on the line. So without further ado, let's just jump into that final battle and see if we can't get some huge prizes or not. Here we are for round 3 on the play with some unkeepable mana there, some unkeepable mana here. We're going to be on the straight Mold of 5 again. Or are we hoping for the best, keeping Nightmare Vermin? I feel like Mold of 5 reduces our chances so much, even with like the perfect hand. Might be better statistically to pray for planes than try our best with a 5-card hand. Seeing how things went last round as well. Alright, let's keep this one. Playing against a red deck, they discard Witch's Mark, and there's a forest. So green-red, Toadstool, Admirer turn 1. Find a swamp, we can at least Vermin turn 3, but that does miss the plains for our 2-drop white spells. There's a Root Rider Fawn, green, blue, red from our opponents. Very multicolored stuff there, and there's the plains. Let's go. Go for some mana efficiency here, dropping Voracious Vermin. But we have certainly already lost a lot of momentum, just missing 1 white drop here. Vigil into Vermin, much better than just Vermin on 3 by itself. Send in the Admirer? You know, I don't hate this trade if the game goes long. I can Glass Casket the Fawn, but they've already got 4 mana. They haven't missed a land drop yet. I'm probably casketing the Admirer over the Fawn. Can't do both these things, Vigil and Casket. And guess if I casket the Fawn, I get in with everybody else. Good for 3 this turn. Maybe I am casketing the Fawn. But we just let them keep Admire, because if they want to dump all their mana doing that, it means they're not doing other stuff. I should have played my land in case they have the counter, unless you have a fairy kind of thing going on. I don't know why they'd be playing that in blue, green, red, but it is a possibility. Alright, cool. Counter on the Admirer it is. We'll poke for 3. Could put a stop on my upkeep in case something weird happens where we want to sack this in the upkeep. Super duper unlikely. It's almost definitely going to be better to just cast Vigil. But I could sack Nightmare in the upkeep, try to use it to guarantee another basic land, drop that land and play Vigil. Do both things. Stormkeld Vanguard, incredibly good against Glass Casket. That's disgusting. We're probably going to cut Casket for the destroy a creature with power 4 or greater because of that. And maybe I should have done that last round as well. I think it would be so good if I hit a basic to just cast Clothier that I'm not going to upkeep Nightmare. Yeah, it's much better to do this. And Scry and Vigil here. Took that risk, got rewarded this time, which is nice. Now that I have 5 mana, I think it's really unlikely we're scrying during our upkeep, because if I scry during the upkeep, I'm going to tap out of 3 of my 5 mana, which means I'm just going to scry and then cast Vigil. At that point, we might as well cast Vigil and then scry during their end step, because if we draw a better card to cast that's 3 or 4 mana, we'll just do that instead. Uh-oh. That's a bomb and a half. So they just get the best 2 creatures in their deck and just put them on the board. Great. Well, at least we know they're not killing anything on blocks here. Sweet Tooth Witch is the draw. So we can send the whole board in. We know they're not going to block. But then we just lose. They just put 2 Hamlet Gluttons into play. Jesus Christ. Okay. I mean, we probably just lose. They're going to put like 2 Hamlet Gluttons into play and cast a 6/7 next turn. And they get to stop most of this damage. Okay. Let's get absolutely bombed out by Defense of the Heart, shall we? They have a Gruff Triplets, too. We're gonna have an aneurysm on this side of the table. This is not good in the slightest. Them for 2 more and scry 2 here. At least no gluttons for like life gain, so that is a start. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. Still have 2 creatures on board that would be able to block whatever I target. Not on a flyer. If my flyer's still around, they'll have nothing that can block it. Cheeky House Mouse might actually be the win condition here. So they're not going to have any discard spells, but they could have removal for like Sweet Tooth Witch. So I think what we do is we spend the 2 on the Sweet Tooth Witch to put them to 6. Then we Hopeless Nightmare. Next turn, we Hopeless Nightmare to put them to 4. And House Mouse on the flyer to kill them. If they kill my flyer, then we lose. Or if they have life gain or instant speed removal. Great, there's the life gain. Should probably get out of the habit of announcing all the ways I could lose a game every time. It's not a good energy to put in the world. Maybe they'll still tap out of it. Oops. Maybe they'll still tap out of the food. Probably not, but who knows. Well, I mean, if I do this, it does really incentivize them to play a combat trick. If they have one. And that would be the only way they might be tapped out of food. Because otherwise they do lose all the triplets and none of them get that buff. Which is a really big deal. They're just sending in all 3 triplets without a combat trick? I guess they can kill me with their other creatures, but that is still surprising. That's like the only way to make gruff triplets not completely explode your opponent's face. Well, that feels wrong. And that sucks for me, because that means we don't just find lethal here. Well, let's nightmare them again. Now they're just gonna eat the food, so I can't house mouse for the victory, so we need to hopeful vigil for something. Again. Okay, I just need to find 3 extra damage somewhere. I just need to find exactly as much damage as that food gained them, basically. Any chance I live another turn hitting cooped up here? I coop up the worm to hit them for 3. Next turn I chump block the admirer and take exact lethal. It's like a turn off. Because I can't chump block the vanguard. Which means I'm in this really weird position where I have to coop up the vanguard and attack through the worm, then chump. But then how am I winning? Because they've got the reach blocker and the flying blocker. Just not. If I coop up Beanstalk Worm, I hit them for 3 and I die on the crackback because I can block Admire and take 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 6, just exact lethal. Unless I coop up the worm and play the house mouse, which means I then no longer have the squeak by lethal. Maybe they'll think I have a way to not die. And they'll play it safe here. That's probably honestly our best bet. Because they know I've done a lot of scrying, so they have to be worried about maybe dying on the crackback. So maybe they hold back attendance, don't attack for lethal here. And then we kill them on the crackback because they held back attendance. I think that's literally, that's it. That's the only hope. They play around potential life gain from us. Drop a Tempest Heart. Resolves. Holy crap. Squeak by. All right. That is how you get there when you are dead on board. Just have open mana, multiple things on the board making Arena hold for you, your opponent has to take into account the fact that they are dangerously close to dead on the crackback in the sky if they attack with their flyer. So they're just stuck in a position where it's like, I can attack for the onboard lethal against open mana against somebody who's just scryed a bunch, but then I'm leaving myself dead to quite a bit of stuff on the crackback. Or I can hold it back. And they chose to hold it back, and that gave me the opportunity to squeak on by. All right, let's go. Make it through Defense of the Heart Gruff triplets. All right, this is a Moment of Valor matchup, I think. 5, 4, 6, 7, both are very important cards to kill. I guess that's not a huge quantity of power 4 or greater creatures, but the quality's there. These are important things to get out of the way. Glass Casket would be the potential cut. I still like it against Root Rider Fawn decks, even if they can blow it up potentially. We saw one way to blow it up with the Stormkeld Vanguard. That would be bad for us, but again, getting rid of that Root Rider Fawn turn 2 can still sometimes matter a lot. That's all we're really doing here. Maybe putting in Moment of Valor over Glass Casket. Again, we saw 2 targets. We saw 2 targets for Moment of Valor, and we saw that they had one way to blow up the Glass Casket. I'll still have double Candy Grapple for maybe killing the Mana Dorks. Yeah, I don't know. We'll try it out. We'll go Moment of Valor over Glass Casket here. This is another matchup we should probably be going full aggro, so... Actually, should probably have just cut the 4 mana 3/3 for one of those. Top deck a Swamp, and the hand is interesting. I don't even know if it's good if I top deck a Swamp. I play a Mouse and then a Nightmare and then I just sit. Yeah, no, we can't keep that. We have to hit so many lands to actually do things. Alright, just hope all over the place. Got some double white cards. I don't have any double black, so let's drop a Swamp. Ooh, got rid of their hexproof trick. It's actually not very good against our hand. We don't have any targeted removal, but still nice to not have to worry about that. We know they're playing a 3/2 next turn. Let's play the 3/1. They're not going to want to trade into that, and we'll deal more damage by playing that first. They're not going to trade into it because they can buff this up to a 5/4 on future blocks by sacking a food. Ooh, or they play their Mana Dork Troyan, and we still just get in with Minstrosity because there's no universe in which they get rid of their Mana Dork for our 3/1. Alright, we have drawn our first non-land card of the game. It is a Sweet Tooth Witch. Perfectly timed, though. Draw it on turn 3 and make the use of all 3 of our mana. Also a good attacker into a 1/3. But I expect something much larger to hit the board this turn with that level of Mana Dork. Diminisher Witch. That's a bummer. But Minstrosity keeps hitting in. Or Sweet Tooth Witch. Whichever one doesn't get cursed. Now I have a Moment of Valor, too. You just save one of these creatures instead of blowing something up. Stay aggressive might be worth it. Although the trade is really not bad. Just 3/2 for 3/2. 3/2 for 3/2. I feel like I accept this into my life against their deck. Save Moment of Valor for something better, because we're still going to have a 1/1 and a 2/2 to chip in with. So let's spend 2 mana and shoot them. Drop the Vigil. If they don't play a big enough creature for Moment of Valor, I might scry in the upkeep. Redcap Thief is not big enough, but we also don't get to attack in at all if I don't hold up moments, so I'm just going to hold it. Ooh. Candy Grapple. I can Candy Grapple Moment of Valor. And when I candy grapple, I can also sack one of my enchantments to scry. Let's make sure we kill the mana dork and scry a bit. Another candy grapple. Wicked Visitor. If I play the Visitor before the grapple, then I get an extra damage in there, which is cute. But I think I'm probably still just supposed to take the grapple. I'll get a little greedy here. We'll go Visitor into grapple. They have a second hexproof trick? We made them discard one. Nope, just float that mana just in case. Trade a trick into the Redcap Thief to get the board in. And then now we have a candy grapple to kill the next thing. We just cast Wicked Visitor next turn, then grapple the turn after that. Ooh, the land for the Scavenger, so we can't attack in this turn. Fair enough. Because they can play Scavenger and hold up the food. Oh, they don't have a food anymore. They bargained it. So we can still attack into a Hollow Scavenger with our 2/2. If they drop it on the board. Cool. Trades are trades. I get to scry and make them lose a life, or I wait and grapple away the vigil. What are the odds that I find something better than grapple directly underneath it? Very unlikely, so it's probably better to draw the grapple first and then scry 2 to see the next 2 cards. Plus that means the grapple gets to be -5/-5 just in case they have a way to buff the fawn in response or something, if I'm trying to just kill the fawn. It's possible. Troublemaker. Oof. They do not bargain. If they're not bargaining to exile my Hopeful Vigil, they want to cast a 6-drop. And the 6-drop we saw from their deck is a 6/7 that Candy Grapple can't kill single-handedly. We could stack up like Wicked Visitor plus Grapple, make it a 1/2 on blocks and then kill it. So maybe it is still worth holding on to the grapple, but we can also just kill the fawn and hope they don't hit another land, and then that also activates attacks with Wicked Visitor this turn. It's a hard bargain here. It's going to be hard to actually kill the 6/7 with Wicked Visitor plus grapple, because in order for that to happen, they would have to specifically block Wicked Visitor with the 6/7, and currently they can just trade 2/2s. And why wouldn't they? So I think we kill the fawn and scry into something to deal with the 6/7 maybe. Alright, Hopeful Vigil doesn't deal with it, but it scries again. It's not a 6-drop? That's the 6th mana. Is it a 7-drop? Am I super dead? Oh, we saw Gruff triplets as well. That was another 6-drop they could have, which I think also grappling immediately would be the better play if they had the Gruff triplets, because if Gruff triplets resolves, we're just dead. I can't just grapple one of the triplets and make the other ones 6/6s. That's not going to be a winning plan. Okay, I'm now getting slightly less interested in them drawing into Defense of the Heart, because I've got 2 creatures down now. There is a Tempest Heart. Stop these attacks. Find an Archon's Glory, that works. I'll just kill the dork. Kill the dork. Did I click bargain? I did. That would have been bad. Bargain my 2/2. Sacrifice it to give it +2/+2. Makes a lot of sense. Great play. Let's go, Gauntlet. That's what it's all about. I think I do this. Even though it potentially activates Defense of the Heart. Because in order for them to Defense of the Heart us, they have to tap out next turn and not play more creatures. That's gross. Which means we hit them with everybody twice in a row. But since they had instant speed removal too, another Extraordinary Journey player. Am I just playing against the same people every round, actually? Secretly? Ooh, Spellbook Vendor. Mana efficiency here, drop both. If they had Defense of the Heart, they would have played it, rather than making my board less than 3 creatures. So let's just re-expand the board state and be mana efficient about it. So we can try to get around big blockers by attacking with like 4 attackers against 1, 6, 7, something like that. If they have Defense of the Heart now, they're not quite dead, but I think we're fine. Because I can put them down to like 2, and then they can get like 4 blockers next turn. There's the Stormkeld Vanguard. So I mean, I guess I might as well do everything I can with my mana. I don't think the -1/-1's gonna matter, but who knows? Something +2/+2, and Vendor gives something +1/+1, so spread out this damage as well as possible. Make the rat the most damage. Oh, I draw them another card by doing that. Snap, I forgot about that part of Journey. I shouldn't have put it on an adventure then. Put them to 2. They kill Vendor and they go to 2. I think that's the play. I feel like I need removal or combat trick kind of cards more than anything. But I don't have any left in the deck. I've got 1 Hopeless Nightmare, 1 Cooped Up, 1 Cheeky House Mouse. 3 outs. I guess I'll scry down. Yep, I shouldn't have put Shepherd on the adventure, because the extra -1/-1 was not going to end up killing the Vanguard or anything here. But it did make them draw a card, which I completely forgot even after playing against Extraordinary Journey 1 round ago. So that was loose. But they're still down to 2 against 4 creatures. They need 3 blockers up to live. Or that. That works too. That certainly works too. Oh, Cheeky House Mouse, though, means they're dead, right? No, they've got the food. So they have the food, so they're at 5. 5 life here, we just make sure the vermin doesn't die and send everybody else in, right? They're going to draw another card for doing this, but I think it's worth it. Make sure that vermin doesn't die. Lose a 2/2 and trade a 1/1 off. Well, no, they're at 5. They're at 5, so they do just die to Cheeky House Mouse here. Because they have to take... No, they can chump. They can chump vermin, never mind. They don't just die. They die to Helpless Nightmare next turn. Alright. Yeah, exactly dead to Hopeless Nightmare. They'll have 2 blockers up against 3 attackers. If I play House Mouse, they also need to play another blocker to live, but I give them another draw to try to find food. So I think I'm just gonna... And they're gonna draw a card off Beanstalk Worm also. They're already gonna be good at digging here. Give them that card draw. This way, they have to find like a creature and a food. This plays better if they just immediately top deck a food, because then they have to also find a creature. No food? That's a creature and a food! Get out of here! Come on. That one card is a creature and a food. Awesome. Well, we have no way to get them to tap out of the food mana here. Get tough cookied. My lord. Still get rid of their last card in hand and then do some scrying. They're at 3 life now. I want to know so badly if this was the last card they drew, to where if our one last piece of card draw got them tough cookie or not. 12 minutes is more than enough time to play a third game if we need to. Make sure we play this out right. What are their best plays here? They kill Vermin for free, they kill Mouse for free, they trade into Monstrosity, take 1, go to 1 life, gain to 4, take 2, we have no board left. Yeah, we don't have good attacks, we just Nightmare and pass. Cannot believe the tough cookie for a food and a creature all in one. The last card was Song of Totentans? Alright, I mean, Hopeless Nightmare put in work. Mill 7, put the adventures into your hand, and then they get a 4/4 trample also? Well, that's huge card draw. Yep. They have 7 cards in their deck. That might be 2 huge card draw, if we're lucky. Is Extraordinary Journey a May ability? Nope. They have to draw the card when they cast their adventure creatures. So we are fully on survive. About 4 more turns, probably. Maybe 5 more turns if they only cast 2 creatures off of an adventure. Cursed Roll on Vermin doesn't really change it that much, but none of my other creatures get changed either, so... Kind of all they had there. Oh, they're saving the 2 mana to eat the tough cookie just in case. Which might mean they're just not attacking with anybody here just in case also. Gives us more time for them to maybe mill out. Yeah, pass turn. Clothier's a big deal because they only have 1 reach creature. Celebrant is also solid. Yeah, Clothier's really going to slow them down. Because they're just not going to attack with Beanstalk Worm now. I don't think it super duper matters where I put this right now. I guess if I put it on Vermin, I've got a big enough creature to kill Beanstalk Worm on blocks, but they're already not attacking with Beanstalk Worm. Yeah, let's spread it out. Buff the House Mouse. Get a bunch of threatening attackers. Oh, they're just gonna straight eat the cookie here? Okay. 6 cards in their deck, goes down to 5 mandatorily. But they can play both adventures in one turn to reduce that card draw a bit, which is good for them. I guess I could pick up the House Mouse just to make them draw another card. I'd also get us one attack in with the Clothier, but that wouldn't kill them, so... 3 blockers up? Maybe there is a way to find lethal. 5 attackers, 2 of them get in. Make sure one that gets him deals 4, the other one deals 2. Can't make this rat deal 2, though. If I put the Royal Roll onto this rat token, I think if this was nothing in their hand, we might be able to find lethal here now. Oh no, because I'd have to pick up the mouse, which means the mouse wouldn't be attacking this turn anyway. 5 cards in their deck, we can put it down to 4. Scream Puff is perfect against that Vanguard, slows them down. Coven gives us another flyer. So we can block even if they play a flyer here. Make sure that they know if they don't hold a reach creature up, they're dead. Oop that in. Give them the card draw. Three cards in their deck. Oh, the spider food. Well, that's pretty great for them. Vermin's a 4/4 now, though, so it keeps everything but Vanguard off of us. Sick. Take the Vanguard damage, then drop a Scream Puff to deal with it. We have to survive 4 more attacks. Oh, no. They hit a 3/4 flyer. Well, the Coven's the chump blocker for that. One creature gets in, not for lethal right now. And they also have a food. So really not for lethal right now. 2 cards left in their deck. Focus for 3. If their final card in hand is not a creature, do I win if I chump the Vanguard with a 3/2? 3 blockers up. Block, block, block. 2 things get in for 3 damage total. We definitely don't win, so just trade it off. Here's the chump for attendance. Get rid of their last card in hand, which is just a land anyway. I actually probably should have chump attacked with Monstrosity at that point. Well, maybe. 1 card left in their deck now. It's gonna be a real close game. And a real close match in general, even if we do go to game 3. With how close these first 2 games have both been. Send in that flyer. Final draws a land for us. Monstrosity stops 3 damage blocking Transmuter. So wait, what is the plan here? 6/6 there. Chump there, chump there. I mean, they're just going to take the 2, though. if I attack, so it's definitely better on blocks. Yeah, we gotta pass. Would it be better in our graveyard? It would be better as a food token than it would be a creature on board here, but I can't turn into a food by attacking, I just deal 2 to them. If I had seen that earlier, I could have gotten some scries off of it, maybe, and maybe gotten them to the point where they do block and kill it. But at this point, it's the last card in their deck. They're not going to kill Minstrosity. And they don't find lethal. Really, really close games in that final round, both times. But it is going to be a 2-0 in the end, but still, long games. Still got a lot of playtime out of this draft event. That was like 2 hours of gameplay today. It'll be edited down a bit for sure, but another excellent traditional draft of Wilds of Eldraine for us. Get the full prize out with this deck, and I really enjoyed this deck. I think this was better than our first traditional draft deck. It's just more general, streamlined 2-color stuff. The excellent removal of the Candy Grapple. So many great things that we got to do with Hopeful Vigil. Glass Casket was a little of an underperformer because so many people could blow it up, but it was still doing great things. Really won us a game exiling a mana. It worked that one time. Basically everything in the deck did pretty well. Biggest overperformers got to go to that cheeky House Mouse. That won us a game that we were really losing otherwise. Finding that that lethal there was very satisfying because it really looked impossible to win with Defense of the Heart into Gruff Triplets and a 6/7 and stuff like that. So incredible stuff from Stuart Little over here, squeaking on by for the victory. Absolutely fantastic draft overall today. Let's claim our prizes, grab our 2,500 gems, our 2 playing points, our 6 booster packs, and head off for the night. That is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check me out at the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.